Welcome, welcome everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the Counseling Toolkit webinar where we are going to talk about real stuff no one warned you about when you signed up to be a therapist. I was talking to somebody in another in-person event, and they were saying that psychology students spend years studying Freud or Jung theories, attachment styles, defense mechanisms. Yet we graduate without even learning how to say in just the right way. College doesn't give us space to practice real world counseling as much as we would like. But now we are expected to hold space for clients going through grief, trauma, burnout, existential concerns, you name it. Where's that skill in the curriculum, right? Well, that's what this session is all about. Whether you are a student making your way through your first practicals or you're already are a practitioner wondering, am I doing this right? Today is just for you. And to help us crack open the toolkit of essential counseling skills, we have someone who's done it all, a therapist, trainer, supervisor, and a major mental health educator. Please join me in welcoming Jai Arora. Welcome, Jai.
Thank you. Appreciate the warm introduction with such interesting words. Yeah.
Well, Jay, you're not only a great therapist, but you're also highly sought after trainer, and you have made it your mission to bridge the gap between theory and practice. For those of you who have joined the session, you might have seen him in workshops, webinars, social media, and if you're lucky, in a supervision session as well, where he somehow makes even note-taking feel empowering. But just a self-proclamation, if you want to do more than just jot down notes and if you want to save time in your therapy planning, check out Zensible. I'll drop in our website address on the chat window. You can check it out. But less about us at Zensible, more about Jay. Jay also runs a 2-month-long training program for early career therapists where he goes into in-depth into theories, interact with his custom training bots, and he also does practical training with him. So connect with him after the session on LinkedIn if you want to know more. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And throughout today's session, we'll explore different micro skills, how to listen deeply, respond skillfully, and connect with our clients authentically. And if anything sparks your curiosity, drop your questions or thoughts on the chat window. Think of it as our own cozy corner for therapists. No judgments, just reflections. So keep the chat messages coming. We love a good talkative group. And with that, let's jump straight ahead, Jay. We'll start with what I started the webinar with. A lot of people think that, especially young therapists, say that college didn't prepare me enough for therapy, right? So, what essential skills are often not drilled through our college education, but are very,
Mhm.
very critical in when you are, talking to clients in the real world? What, according to you, are those important skills?
I think they say that because college hasn't prepared them. Firstly, let me just address that. There's no smoke without fire. Every cliche had been true at some point in time for sure. So that's the truth. It's the baseline assumption that we're taking for granted in this session that a lot of colleges. I was privileged enough to be part of one of those colleges which prepares you well, which was Christ. I think this is one of them. A couple more of them are there. But I think beyond that, what I have seen, without taking any names, without disrespecting anybody, any institution, what I've seen is that somehow they manage to not train their students in the most important skills, which could be anywhere from empathy, which could be anywhere from how to talk, how to move your hands, where should your eyes look, where should your feet be, what should you observe in a client. all of those things are amiss. So yeah, I think how to talk. When I was a child, not a child, when I was in 10th grade probably, somebody recommended me this book called How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Mm.
It's such a great book. And I think it's not just psych, firstly, also maybe address that. It's every field, it's every education system that takes the communication skills for granted. Micro skills, if you break them down, to maybe understand it from the word microscope, you see what's going underline, what's happening just beneath the surface. So from the top, this is what our institutions are doing. From the top, it's two people talking, one person observing and applying theories and all of that. That's why they're preparing us for Freud, for diagnosis, for self-harm, for crisis, and all of that. But what's happening underneath, which is the microscopic vision, the micro skills wherein they come, they're not seeing that. And it's fascinating when I talk about it. I'm still smiling. It probably talking about for the 100th time, but it's so true. I don't think anybody can deny that. So, education system India subset is the psych world, and then I think inability to prepare the students better is a very grave concern.
Mm. Yeah, I couldn't move past when you said where to keep your leg. I would have never thought that was an important thing when it comes to counseling.
Why
Why
not?
is tell me more about it. Where to keep your leg and how to move your hands. How are they correlated?
Okay. You're in an in-person session, right? This is an assumption that therapy is an in-person. You can't keep your leg. I mean, I don't want to show it to you, but I can't keep my leg on my desk and talk to you like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not professional. B, it means that I'm not here for you. I'm relaxing and having a gala time on my own. It matters when
Mm.
if you're having a meeting, if the person is keeping one leg over the other, if it's they're cross-legged, हिंदी में बोलते हैं आलती पालती मार के, if they're sitting like that, if they're wearing socks, are they applying nail paint? Everything is important. Everything gives me information as a psychologist to derive hypotheses, and data from. For example, in MSc, which is a mental status examination, it's a very clinical way of looking at things, but it's important. Dress up is so important. If a client is coming in shabby, they haven't, taken a bath for 3 days, they are smelling, or their hair is all frizzy, or something like that. They're wearing torn down shoes. It gives you signals that something has happened. They were probably not like this in the last session. What changed? So you just can't talk. You have to observe from head to toe. Everything is
Do,
important.
do, do you note them down? Do you, when you are, reflecting on the session with the client, do you note that down that they looked shabbier than the last session, or their face looked much more, brighter than the last session? Do you notice these things as well and write it down? Do you note how they are talking?
I think more than noting, I'll talk to them about it.
Okay.
Because if you're looking shabby, and again, shabby has different connotations, but let's just say it looks like you're not well, something like that. When you have a flu, your face tells your friends that, hey, this person is not all right, something's up. You are a human being in that space. Why can't you not talk about that? Why can't you not observe the small, small things? Hey, looks like something's wrong. You're speaking slower today. You usually, let's say you are the, our poster person for the high energy person. If you and
Mhm.
I are in a session and one day you come in with such low energy, like talking like me, I'll take notice. I hope I take notice and then bring it up to you. Hey, Vida, what's up? You're sounding a little low today. Maybe there is a reason. And then they'll tell. If there is a reason, they'll tell. If not, you move on.
Okay. So I get what you're saying. if there is a change from how they were in previous sessions, whether it is appearance wise, whether it is voice wise, whether it is, their expression wise, you then call them out. But when we start, probably in the first 1, 2, 3 sessions, you still don't have a clear picture on what the client is like, what is their baseline, right? So, what do you note in those, or what do you think a therapist, early stage therapist, should note down with respect to their clients in the early sessions?
Sure, interesting. I'll still stick to my answer of asking always better than assuming. So just take it as a baseline. Asking always better than assuming. But if we are specifically talking about what to note down, there is something called attending skills or observation skills. If I break it out into some concrete things, it's three V's: V for Veena, and
Veda.
B Veda, oh sorry, and B for okay. The three V's: verbal, how are they speaking, the tone, the rate, everything you note down from the get-go, from the session probably, and hopefully from the introductory call itself, if you do one. Second V is visuals, your eye contact. Third is verbal tracking. How often do you change topics? If something distressing comes up, do you change topic? Something like that. That's three. Fourth is your body language. Body language is again so when I speak, my hands move a lot. It's just the way it is. Neck. My legs probably will remain static throughout this 1 hour. So all of that you notice. If you see any changes, then you bring it up.
So how do you do that in an online session? Because unfortunately, in an online session, there are, sometimes only this much, right? And you are not able to ascertain certain
Mhm.
things about the
Mhm.
client. What would you do something differently when it is purely online sessions?
Interesting. I think body language will get restricted, but the others can still be maintained. For example, I'll give you two client real life examples to explain this better. There was a client of mine, first session, so like super early, probably 20 minutes into the session. And the session was going like, आप जनरल लाइफ में क्या करते हो? Tell me about your professional life. So he told about professional life. Tell me about your family. No, tell me about your physical health, mental health, blah blah blah. He told me. Then lastly, we moved on to family. And what I noted is that suddenly the voice became lower. Now, could be thousand reasons. His earphone was not working, my mic was not working. He wanted to drink, he didn't get the water, so he was like, why to move? Let me just talk. Could be a number of reasons. I gently checked in with him. Hey, it looks like when you started talking about your dad, your voice lowered down. Do you think it's relevant? And he ranted for the next 20 minutes because it looked like the relationship with dad was the reason he came into therapy. So when you notice all of these things, I love to call these as unconscious information leaks. Very fancy word. Basically, it means whatever's going on in the head gets leaked through these non-verbals. Another example, if I can give, when something difficult happens, one client of mine starts looking away. He wouldn't look at me in the eye. Even in the video call, you can get a sense of what's in the eye and what's looking away. Then that's your cue. Hey, it looks like it's the pain point. Now it's up to your capability whether you want to, talk more about that distressing point. If it's too early, that's a different conversation. But you need to have these, checkpoints and laps in place to get these informations. You can simply note it down that when the eye contact happened, I didn't tell my client there and then. I asked a couple of more questions and then maybe he later opened up. But I kept a note of that. Yeah.
That is really good. So we have covered some of the micro skills like your posture as a therapist and your movements, what you note down on the client, when to prod them, and all of that. in a lot of theoretical knowledge, and also in our curriculum, we are taught that paraphrasing. You mentioned that you noticed, you heard what they said, and then you paraphrased, or at the end
So,
of the session you summarize, right, that this is what we have discussed and this is what that I have taken into consideration, right? But when we do that, they say that don't use words that the client has not used. For example, if they say frustrated, you don't paraphrase and say angry, right? Because they are two different things. How do
hmm,
we paraphrase and summarize without moving away from what the client is feeling, without sounding robotic, like we are just repeating what they are saying?
hmm,
If they say I felt sad, then we say, "Oh, I understand you felt sad." That is so robotic, right? How to paraphrase and summarize to clients effectively without feeling like we are just reiterating what they are saying?
hmm. I think there is a realistic layer to it. Indians are not very great at emotional labeling. So you'll get clients like, I'm feeling weird. I'm feeling ick. The amount of people who use word ick, I can't tell. I-C-K. Ick. I'm feeling an ick. I'm feeling annoyed. When in actuality they are feeling angry. Weird is one of them. I'm feeling fine. They're not feeling fine. I know you're not feeling fine. Don't say that you're feeling fine. So these are, if you want more interesting ones, then there'll be Abe, there'll be Yar, um, littlest of things. If you get a chance to see men, they'll probably end up cussing. Fuck is a way. Other, I don't want to use those words here, but other ways are ways of like other words are ways of emoting within the session and outside the session itself. That's number one, catching on those subjective, unique idiosyncrasies or ways of expressing emotions. You know, that's one. Second, as because our audience is today is mostly students, we should be in tune with our emotions ourselves. That's so important because I won't be able to say that it's not angry, it's frustrated, or if it's not angry, it's actually disgusted. Till the time I know what's the difference between the two for me, and then I can probably empathize and see, oh hey, probably it's the same for you. So develop emotional vocabulary for yourself. Go to therapy, please. Um, do emotional feelings wheel if you want. I'll share a link for it here in the chat itself. It'll help you. As a trainee, I used to have that wheel on my bedroom ka wall. Every morning, I'll see what am I feeling, and I'll point out, and that's how I learned. And being a cishet man, I was terrible at emotions. My therapy taught me how to what is emotion and what is which emotion. So second is develop emotional vocabulary for yourself. Third, here and now is again very important in the sense that when you are present with the client in the here and now, then you will be able to understand, okay, probably this is what they mean. If at any point you feel, let's say they use the word weird. What do you mean by the word weird? What you can, as a trainee, also do is see what would you have felt in the situation. For example, I'll give you an example. Client says my wife cheated on me and I feel weird about it. When you're paraphrasing, a part of paraphrasing is identifying that exact emotion. You have that emotional vocabulary, something I'm assuming. C, you try and also put yourself in that situation. Hey, honestly, had I been there, I cannot imagine how difficult would have that been for you. And it looks like you might have felt betrayed, or I would have felt betrayed, or sometimes we would have felt betrayed, and then it's the balls in their court whether they want to interact with that emotion. Some people are there, then they want to touch the reality either, so they'll be like, no, no, it's fine, betrayal is there, but no, no, I saw that come. So they'll dismiss that's more to talk about, that's later. If I come specifically to paraphrase, identify that emotion, always start with a sentence stem. Ideally use their word. I love using clients' names. It's how to influence and influence people. It tells the name is the sweetest sound in the world to that person. Personalized therapy for them. It's a professional service, but the matter is so deeply personal to them. So hey, let's say that client's name is Ram. Hey Ram, when you told me all of that, it looks like it would have been deeply distressing and deeply, and you might have felt betrayed by your partner. And last, end by a checkout. Do you think this is true for you? Does that make sense? How does that land on you? Give them the agency to say yes or no. And then they'll say, oh, yes, I feel betrayed. This is something that I learned. My professor in masters was from US, who taught me all of these microskills. So she told me that whenever you get stuck, paraphrase. This is my line for life. Whenever till now I feel stuck, paraphrase is your best friend. I can't tell you. Please learn this skill. Get a hold of it. It's not that difficult. It'll be a friend for life.
So loved the example, loved everything. When you said when you get stuck, paraphrase, I still want to know a little bit more about it. That is, what do you mean by when you get stuck?
Hmm. See, as a
Oh,
trainee,
oh, wait. You said I have to say the name. Hey, Jay, what do you mean when you get stuck?
thanks, Veda, for the name. Um, so we also have to be realistic. All of these skills are ideal, right? As a trainee, half of the session goes in thinking, am I asking the right question or not? What should I ask next? And I know these guys might also agree with that. That was definitely true to me, true for me. When I was listening to somebody as a trainee, I was probably not listening to them actively. Somebody said very true. Thank you. Um, Thank you, Dipen. Um, so I always felt that I wasn't there, not never fully there. I was in my own head thinking, what next question should I ask? Will it be a good question? Have I noted out the right things? Am I sitting straight? What's wrong with my posture? Everything. We are so insecure. Like even being a few years into the setup, I'm still insecure about some of the things. Nobody is perfect, and whoever is claiming that, please call them out. Um, Back to the question. When I said paraphrase is the best friend, there will be times when you will get lost. That's where the word stuck came in. That's when you'll feel stuck. Breathe. Whatever you remember, paraphrase. They'll add something. The client will add something. That's how you get out of that stuckness. You can't tell your client that, hey, sorry, I was thinking if it's the good question or not, and I didn't listen to the last part. Can you repeat? I mean, sometimes sure do that, but you can't realistically say that. So whatever
Mm.
you remember sometimes, and it's very human to forget things, not pay attention, zone out. You can also get zone out. Sometimes, let's say the story is about abuse. You can't take it in. There's so much counter-transference happening. You zoned out. All realistic human experiences. Breathe, paraphrase, move. Simple.
Nice. That's good. That's good. I like it. So, just a follow through from one of our participant, you said that use names, right?
Hmm.
But sometimes you get people who are, around the same age group as you. Sometimes you get people who are younger than you, but many times you may also get people who are like really elder than you. And
Hmm.
in Indian cultural context, when people are really elder than you, they are still not used to you calling them by their names, right? What do you
Hmm.
do in those cases? How do you address them, or how do you figure out whether they are okay with you calling their name or not? Just ask.
Just ask.
Yeah.
Figure it out in the first 5 minutes. Ideally, again, if you're doing introductory call, I'm assuming the two of you would have been there. Ask, hey, I feel a little confused. What should I address you by? Should I call you, let's say, Veda? Or should I call you ma'am? Or should I call you something else? Let me know whatever you are most comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, If you are uncomfortable, the process will be hard. I don't want to do that. Ask.
Perfect,
Why to
perfect.
sit with my insecurity all the time?
That is so true. Just better to ask what they are comfortable with. See their reaction. Sometimes they may even
Yeah.
agree with what you're saying just because they are, okay with it. That was actually something that I wanted to ask you. You said that in the example of Ram, where you said, "Did you feel betrayed?" It depends on
Hmm.
the client, right? Client sometimes might just agree because you said it. How do you determine
Hmm.
whether they are agreeing with you just because you said it, or whether they actually feel it?
Very good question. You'll have to check in with the client. Each client is different. If you feel this client has confrontation issues, talk to them in advance. For example, a different example but applicable here. There are clients of mine who will be like, I cannot, you know, fear of authority is there. Okay. Sometimes they also try to put the therapist on pedestal. And then I'm like, hey, look, there will be times when I'm going to challenge you. This is again very relational way of looking at things, but it's important for everybody to learn. Hey, there will be challenges or there will be times where I would want to confront you. How do you think, what do you think is the best way I can do that? Should I do it after the session? Should I do it right there and then when I feel? And do it gently. There is a way, there is something called empathetic confrontation. Confront, but you can still do that empathetic. You don't have to yell about it. Hey, it's wrong about you. No. Hey, I noticed that when you were saying I want to quit smoking, you've been saying that for a month, but it looks like you haven't been putting any action. What's going on? Am I missing something? Is there something else that's going on? They'll tell. Ask nicely. Did I answer your question properly?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. So I have a follow-up there, right?
Hmm.
You talked about confrontations, which is very important. Sometimes you have to support them. People always say, especially on social media, hold space for your client, hold space for your client. Very rarely do they talk about also the
Hmm.
confrontation approach. You need to challenge them. You're not just there to baby them. At some point, you have to start challenging them, right? When you start challenging them, some client may outright lie to you. For example, if they are trying to quit smoking and
Hmm.
you ask, "Hey, tell me, how was this week?" They are like, "Exceptional. I didn't even think about picking up a cigarette packet," right? You know that that is not true. How do you call that out without saying, "I don't trust you"?
Firstly, you have to check why don't you trust your client.
No, no, no. I mean, maybe you just saw them. I'm just saying.
And
Otherwise, how
that's
will you
what I'm
know if they are
saying. How the
lying?
transference is real. So the thing is, many times, what the client makes their friends or family feels like, those feelings get transferred to the therapist as well.
Mhm.
Maybe the way I am feeling that, hey, I don't trust you. Maybe everybody else around them feels the same thing. You need to check in that. So a very relational way of looking at things, but feelings get transferred because the patterns that they are sort of involved in with the relationships, eventually the same patterns as the therapy process gets older, same patterns come in within the therapy itself. They'll get attached, they'll not want to quit, or they'll start lying because it's getting too serious. Could be anything. Now coming back to your original question, how do I tell them that, hey, it looks like I don't believe you yet, or you're not telling the complete story? Interesting. I think, and one element should be considering why are you not trusting them? Is it a bias of your own? Let's assume it's not a bias, it's actually the client, you know they are lying. I would say ask them nicely. I would say rely on is someone.
Sorry. Just give me a second. There's somebody talking. Jay, you may need to unmute.
Yeah, thank you. Assuming that it's not your bias that's coming in, A, ensure that there is enough rapport with the client. You don't want them to leave therapy after this confrontation. Then again, I feel like it's similar to empathetic confrontation. Hey, it looks like I'm still not convinced when you said that. What's going on? Do you think it's me, or do you think there's actually more that you're not telling me? I think that will help. But you should have enough rapport with your client so that they don't feel, weird after that.
Or feel the ache.
Hmm.
So, we spoke a lot about talking, asking them, paraphrasing. But I am told that silence can also be a very powerful motivator for clients to open up. How do you determine, or when do you use? I mean, how do you determine is very difficult.
Hmm.
When do you use silence to motivate your clients to open up? Do you have any examples?
Clients. I think firstly check in what's the client's relationship with silence. I have clients who get uncomfortable and awkward at silences. So you don't give them silence. Um, there are clients who you feel might benefit. There are moments where you feel, let's say I had a client. I have honestly, so that person came into the session, they had some troubles, they cried a lot, so they probably cried for 5 minutes. Sometimes I am speechless myself. How can they bear through all of that pain? Sometimes that silence is actual silence. I don't have words. You can sometimes just say that, hey, I don't have any words to express. It looks like it's so difficult. They'll tell whatever you're feeling in the actual moment, express that. And again, just ensure they are not, getting awkward by silences and all of that. If they feel comfortable, give them lots of silences. Silences are ways of reflecting or moments of reflection as well. For a lot of clients, that 1 hour is the only time they get for self reflection. The other time they are just running. Maybe tell them this that hey, for self reflection, take a moment. I've had clients like who'll cry or who'll speak, and I'm not speaking. I know that it's the moment. Maybe just let them stay with the feeling. Why to distract them? Let's say betrayal. So I made the paraphrase, and betrayal was not the word that was in Ram's head, and Ram was shocked. Hey, she betrayed me. That was cheating. I It's a big realization. Suddenly everything becomes conscious that you probably knew all along, but suddenly everything becomes conscious. Let them have their moment. I have had clients who've rested their heads on sofa like this. I in my therapy so many times I sink in my chair like this so many times. It happens when I'm in a reflective space, or I'll jot something in my diary. Anything. Give them space. Sometimes experiment. If they're responding well, give them more space. If they're not responding well, ask another question. Or maybe ask what's awkward about this silence. Maybe the thoughts are so difficult that they don't want to be silent. So many permutations and combinations.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a question from one of the audience. They are asking, we are talking about clients who are open, who are okay to explore, who cry in front of you. But there are also situations where there is emotional avoidance, right? They do not feel like they are ready to open up. How
So
to identify that and stop bombarding them with questions and pull back to give them that space?
it's a strange question because if good question but strange question because if the client is emotionally avoidant, they wouldn't need space. They wouldn't want space. Because space is again those thoughts, those emotions keep coming in. Often, what you will see with those clients is they'll bombard you with factual information.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this happened, this happened, this happened. I never, they'll never say, I felt this. This happened, he did this to me, I did this to him, we fought, he went home, she went home, now we are taking a divorce. They'll speak like this. They won't say like, oh, I'm feeling sad, I couldn't go to work the next morning. They won't say. Only factual information. So if you have a client which is not expressing emotions very well, what you can do is introduce feelings wheel, as I've already talked about it. I think psychoeducation helps over there as well. So because I've worked with men a lot off late, and a lot of men stereotypically do not have a good grasp of labeling emotions and understanding what they're going through and all of that. A feeling wheel helps. Um, Sometimes just check in with their body. Where are they feeling the sensations? Are you feeling fidgety? Sometimes heart palpitates a little bit more. So if that's, then you do the breathing and all of that. In a long term, help them with psychoeducation that emotions are important. Help them know that even if you're not releasing those emotions, they're not going away, they're still inside. And they come out in different ways. A very common way for men to express bottled up emotions is anger, hitting, frustration, abuse, and all of that. Help them see those correlations. I think that's step one. And then I've from time to time let my clients know that since feelings are important, with your consent, I'm just going to nudge you a little bit to feel. If you feel too uncomfortable, we have a stop sign. You tell me to stop, and we won't go there any further. Comfortable, make it comfortable, but do let them know the importance of this process of feeling.
Okay. So I know many therapists sit and do a lot of planning before the sessions, that what to bring up with the client, what have they discussed before, what to explore in the coming sessions, etc. That is general therapy planning. But do you incorporate these micro skills as well when you plan for your next session with a client, that I will paraphrase this way, or I will give
Hmm.
them more silences in today's session so that I allow them to open up? Do you also incorporate these micro skills into your therapy plans per client?
Hmm. Interesting. Not at this point,
Mhm.
because you know I don't want to sound egotistical, but after a point in time, they become muscle memory. So you don't
Yeah.
have to prepare for this. You have to prepare for the content or the modality and all of that. But when I
Mhm.
was a trainee, yes, these have to be part of what I want to plan for my clients. A great word. So the book that I read for this is called Intentional Interviewing and Counseling Skills. Leave everything, just keep the word intentional. Everything has to be intentional. It's not like you're asking how are you feeling out of thin air. There are so many clients, so many therapists, it'll be like some tough or intense emotion is happening because they can't feel that emotion. They ask how are you feeling to distract themselves. This is what psychologists also do. We are also humans. Maybe some difficult emotion is not, I'm not copable at that moment in that time, whatever. So make sure whatever you're doing, there's a purpose behind it. Intentionality is the most important thing. You don't have to go uh, into depths about planning because all of these are very here and now based. No matter how much you plan, the client will say something else only in the next session. So better prepare yourself to apply these skills than to apply in one particular situation, is what I'd say.
That's a very good response. Now, this is outside of sessions, because something you said triggered this question in me. You said that sometimes that as a therapist, you may not be able to feel that emotion, or
Hmm.
you may not know how to cope with that emotion. When
Right.
what skills do therapists, or what, let's not even go into skills, what techniques do you apply, Jay, between one session and the next session? Because let's say you have back-to-back sessions. both are intense. You know, the session that you have come out of was an intense one. You know, the one that you're going to go into next is also an intense one. Okay. Between the two sessions, what do you do to clear yourself, your mind? What is your go-to technique?
Firstly, don't schedule back-to-back sessions. Take a
I mean,
30-minute break.
let's say that there is 10, 5, 15
Yeah,
minutes break in between.
try as much as you can to avoid this. The earliest I'd like to do is, let's say, 12 to 1, then 1:30 to 2:30, so that I know I have space. Sometimes session also run 5 minutes over, 10 minutes over, around that. Let's say if a session has run heavy, go wash. I mean, again, it's specific. I would go wash my face. I would get up my chair. I'd open my door, go stand in the balcony, use my phone. So even here, I have my like touch
Squeezy.
this accessible. So as a therapist, I also need that. Um, go eat a little biscuit if that helps you. Candy helps people. Do 5 4 3 2 1, the one that you're teaching your clients. Do that yourself. I mean, you are emotionally dysregulated. That's the basic of it. Do those regulation. Sure, Srileka, my diary is over there, but I prepare before each session, then I write the session notes, then I write after each session what I felt in the session and what we felt we did right, what can we do in the next session out of that. So that is part. So journaling helps. Thanks for pointing that out. But that's a very day-to-day thing. If I'm feeling too overwhelmed, I might not journaling that. I might not do journaling. Yeah. Uh, Zoom user is right. Um, Yeah, that's honestly what I have. It's very specific. Know what helps you ground and repeat that. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to know what you do. As somebody I have noticed, they
Uh,
do between sessions. They have their own iPad tablet. I think it is a tablet, some tablet. They sit and draw and color, and they say that it helps them between sessions to
hmm.
get their focus back. So that is yeah, just wanted to know what your go-to techniques are. One of the other things that I wanted to ask, obviously,
Veda,
you
Veda,
have. Mhm.
I'm sorry. I have one more point. I feel like it's important to plug it in here. Um, if you look at it at a business sense, any person who's selling something has to be the consumer. Please go to therapy. When you learn all of these techniques for yourself, it'll be 5 times easier to convey these to your clients. When I can tell, this happened to me, therapy helped me XYZ way, it feels convincing because it's true. I'm not selling therapy, I'm just sharing my experience. So if you've done these regulation things for yourself, then it becomes a then it becomes easier for your client to emulate all of that too. Just wanted to plug that in, like pro therapy, hashtag therapy things.
That is a very good point, but I also have a follow-up on that. Okay. I was talking to this person. I have to mention a little bit of information here.
Mhm.
They were going through menopause, and that was causing a lot of troubles in how they were acting, right? They came to me and they said, I want to try and get a handle on this, but every time I try to find a therapist, they are all young people. What will
Hmm.
they know about menopause, right? So, what you're saying is you do therapy so that you can tell them that this works. But that is a very double edged sword because sometimes you may not be able to, or you may not have experienced everything that your client experienced. So,
That's true.
how do you handle that?
That's why I said you are teaching emotional regulation. You're not teaching how to cope up with breakup. That's different. You might have gone through a breakup and they might have gone through loss of somebody. Emotional pain could be similar. you were teaching the client or psychoeducating about emotional regulation. It could be same. Extending question on gender. I'm just reading this one. I have felt women don't want to understand what men go through. Where do you feel that with female clients? Interesting. I would say yes, because again, it boils down to your individual experiences as well. If I have to very objectively see it, let's say, let me bring in gender and nationality and ethnicity as well. I am 25. I am cishet male living in Delhi, which is an decently urban area in India. I see client from the same place versus everything is same. The client is white, a Catholic person from the US. There would be differences. So even within gender, it's something called charm circle. If you would have seen, please Google it. Let me type that name here. CHARM. So please Google that. It incorporates everything from economics, socioeconomics, geopolitics, race, gender, caste, creed. So I think it's much, much, much more beyond gender. It's about individual differences, and you can't solve for that always, and hence you need to be multicultural. That's a good segue into a different area. Be multicultural. Be multicultural means make an effort to learn. I know you can't possibly learn about all the cultures there are. So be non-judgmental, be open, um, yeah. And sometimes refer out if you feel it's too difficult. It's not about ego that मेरे को सारे केस करने हैं. I'll take all the challenges. You can harm people in that process. So if you don't have enough experience, you feel it's too hard. Let your client know that hey, I don't feel competent enough. Maybe I'll refer you out to somebody else. Easier way.
That is a very good point, and that kind of ties into what I wanted to ask next. How do you figure out? Obviously, you can ask the client whether it's helping them, but how do you figure out what you're doing, what you're applying with the client is actually working, especially as an
Hmm.
early career therapist? How do you figure it out without sounding doubtful of yourself? Hey, is it working? Am I doing well? Okay, you can't go and ask
Um,
that to your client. So, how do you figure it out?
Too good. I think even if at the risk of sounding, asking for feedback, I'd say do that, then not ask for any feedback. It's better to have excessive feedback than have no feedback. First thing for trainees. Next thing we can go on to the balance part. As sort of a policy, almost always I ask my clients what stood out for you from the session. Now the interesting thing about therapy is that you are two individuals, right? Subjective experiences are so different. One day it so happened that due to my personal problems, one therapy session I labeled as this is the worst session of my history of being a therapist. All of the conversation is going on inside. Towards the end, I asked the client, hey, how was it? He said it was the best session for me. And I was like, how the hell can I be, so off? It looks like the metrics of a good session are so different for me and so different for the client. So ask what stood out for you, because what you think is important versus what they think is important for them can be starkly different. Ask for feedback, but maybe in a different way. What stood out for you? What are you taking away from the session? How did you feel about the session? Sometimes make a point and ask, how do you feel in my presence? Do you feel comfortable? Sometimes point blankly ask that. And as a policy, sort of 3 to 5 sessions after every 3 to 5 sessions, I ask for feedback. You came for this thing. Do you think it's being achieved? Are we going in a different direction? What's happening? At the end of the day, it's your money. If you want to see results after a point in time, you might start presenting it. Realistic, again, being realistic with the clients.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I like the way that you say what stood out for you in the session, because what you think the point you are making and what the
Yeah.
client thinks the point you're making, it can be
Yeah.
really different. And we talked about the therapist paraphrasing, but it's so important to understand the client paraphrasing it back to you, what you're saying. That's also important. I really like that.
Hmm. Interesting. Just to add one line to that, if you do a summary, if you do a psychoeducation, if you feel you've spoken for 3 minutes, or 2 minutes, like a monologue, ask your client to summarize that for you. Sometimes ask your client, what do you remember from the last session? They'll tell you. So it's interesting ways to gather information as to what sticks and what they are forgetting. Are they consciously choosing to not focus on the difficult parts? What's happening? Like that.
Okay. I'm sorry, I have to ask this. You said that if you have done 3-minute monologue, right? Eh, Is there a rule of thumb where you say, as a therapist, I am not going to monologue more than this much amount of time. I'm going to set myself a timer in my brain to say, I am not going to monologue, because that is very important for me. I am a very big monologuer, right?
Uh, so had you been in my training course, in the first session, I would have asked you to reflect on your individual communication style and your strengths and your weaknesses. So this would
Mhm.
have covered over there. That so I'm somebody who sometimes might give too much space. I am that person. For you, sometimes it looks like somewhat opposite might be there. That sometimes I go on my own train of thought and I forget, oh hey, मेरे को तो उनको सुनना था, something like that. So reflect on your personal style and B. There's no rule of thumb because every client is different. There would be clients wherein you just find space to talk. That hey, you just come rant and you don't let me speak. It's not about me talking, but it's also about making some sense of what you're saying. There would be clients who are so reserved where you'll have to talk, 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 ask questions to get information and make them open up. No rule of thumbs. Just if you feel internally you've talked too much, just check in with them if it's the same for them. Maybe they liked hearing that. What's the problem?
True. That is true. So I have one more question. People say that with experience you get better, right? And that is true of therapy as well. You keep applying these micro skills, they come to your course, learn about themselves, and then reflect it back in their therapy session, all well and good. But it also happens that as you go through many sessions,
Hmm.
you as a therapist can sometimes become jaded. You can start tuning out. You can start being disconnected with your own emotions, right? What are some red flags that therapists need to watch out for, that this is happening,
Hmm.
that you're starting to become jaded and you need to reevaluate how you're doing?
I would use two words here. One is secondary traumatic stress, second is burnout. I'm not going to explain these too much in depth. I think burnout is a very common word. Secondary traumatic stress is basically after hearing hundreds and not thousands probably, but hundreds and hours of distressing content, you start internalizing that stress. How can that show up? Not being motivated to especially see that client. अरे यार वो फिर से आ गई, मेरे को मन नहीं है सेशन लेने का. Could be like can show up like that. Not wanting to work, hopeless, helpless, worthless. Again, that neurotic side of stuff. Loss of energy, loss of appetite, loss of sleep. Not finding pleasure in things that you probably once felt interested by or called for by. So some of the symptoms could be these. I think beliefs. Okay, probably therapy is useless. So your beliefs have started changing now. I can't take more than 2 sessions a day. So I think part of it is reaching burnout. I want you all to have burnout because then only you will find your limits. that you don't have to cross. Have a burnout. No, what's the problem? You'll recover. It's okay. We'll get there. You're 20 years old, you're 21, or however old you are, you're new to this profession. See clients. No worries. Get that you said experience, right? Get that experience. Get that experience of burnout also. What's the problem? I had that. Now I feel like I can't take more than 3 sessions a day. That's my hard no. And that works for me, at least for now. Maybe one day 3 sessions will become too much or too less. Then I'll क्या बोलते हैं, modulate or regulate accordingly. So have limits. Regular self-care is important. You can't forget you have a life after or beyond being a professional. Sometimes we can get lost in the fact that we are helping people and it makes me feel good in return, like a gratification thing. But you do have life outside that. So do have that anchors and regulatory things in place. You'll be fine. Have burnout experience. Burnout is okay. It's not okay. I mean, it's not okay. It's a bad feeling, but you'll get to know your limits also.
Very clearly. That's very good. That's very good. There's a question. When or how do you offer advice when client is stuck or undergoing stressful or pressured situation? By
Hmm.
the way, before you answer, for others, I know you have been asking questions, but I want to pause and say if you want to ask a question, raise your hand or put it in the chat as well if you have been holding out right now. Go on, Jay.
I'll have to read the question again. Sorry. When or how do we offer advice? Advice in capital. That's interesting. When client is stuck or undergoing stressful, pressured situation, ask yourself, ask your client, do they want advice? Or is it again your inability to sit with difficult, what was the word that you used? Stressful or pressured situation. Is it pressured for you? For example, betrayal. Let's go back to Ram. You had a similar experience and you have the urge to tell Ram that, hey, uh, FIR or, publicly shame her or something like that. Could be your own emotions also cropping up. So is it advice because you can't sit with those difficult emotions, or do they want advice? Even if they want advice, is it so urgent or is it a crisis situation that they can't manage till the next session? If you feel sure in crisis situation, if it's active suicidal ideation, you need to be actively involved and be directive and all of that. If you feel sometimes, and let's just also discuss, why do somebody want to take advice from a therapist? They opened up. Now they're feeling like, partly, I don't know what the hell do I do with it. It's such a difficult state to be in. Na? They just want that pain to be over. I would say rather than giving advice, acknowledge that helplessness first. It looks like you're helpless. That's why you're, also finding for uh, these advice that can keep you afloat. In Hindi, there's a kahavat, "Dubte ko tinka." So they would want anything that they can to just feel that, hey, it's going to be okay. Maybe this thing would work. So look at where they're coming from. That's one. If it's a crisis, please give advice. Sometimes it's helpful. If you feel they can manage, let them know. Sometimes it's also important to let the client know why are you not giving advice, because you want them to be independent. Because if I'll give you advice, it will be generic. How is it different from your dad giving you that advice? I'm there to support you. We can experiment. You tell me 3 things, then we'll do the pros and cons of it, and then we'll narrow down to one thing. I've given advice, it hasn't worked. And then in the next session, my client and me have laughed about it, that, hey, I forced you to give me advice and I still didn't act on it. Till the time it doesn't come from internally, then why would you act on it? Have you listened to your mom telling you, hey, sit straight, hey, eat good food, hey, don't go out after 11 p.m.? Nobody listens until and unless it comes from within. Same as in therapy.
Oh, that's a very good question. I was actually thinking that how to end a session if it's exceeding the time limit, like more than, I mean, 2, 3 minutes is fine. You don't want to cut them off, but it's going beyond 10 to 15. If there is a client like me who wouldn't stop talking, how would you gently end the session?
I think enforce boundaries. Pehle. Don't give surprise packages to your clients. That's one. Tell them we start on time, we end on time. It's important. Number one. Sometimes boundary is important for the client to also learn that therapy many times becomes a space wherein you model how communication and boundaries look like. If they are a person who doesn't have a good sense of boundary, you modeling that, hey, we end on time and forcing that, but not being mean to them. They're, enforcing boundaries, looking after my needs, and still being a good therapist can coexist. Firstly, tell your clients that. Second, अगर आपको लग रहा है कि कुछ क्राइसिस चल रहा है तो 5-10 मिनट is okay. I've been there. It happens. Let the client know. Sometimes what I do offline is keep a 55-minute timer. It just ensures that it rings at 55 minutes, then we have 5 minutes to close down. Now, in a dramatic turn of events, let's say worst case, it's 15 minutes past, आपका client चुप ही नहीं हो रहा. Then you have to let them know, hey, you can maybe make an excuse, hey, I have a session at X, which is 10 minutes from now, so we'll have to wrap up here. Hey, I have to attend to something else. We have to wrap up here. Is it okay if we continue in the next session? You don't have to mean about it. Hey, I noticed that we've ran out of time. Is it okay if we can? I have so this is something that I say a lot. I have taken this down for the next session. Can we talk about it next time? Right now, we'll have to wrap up. Simple. Be assertive. Please be assertive if they are testing your boundaries. Not directed to you, Greta, by the way.
Yes, I am being assertive. We are 3 minutes over time, Jay. No, I'm
Yeah.
not. Hey, if you have any other questions, feel free to raise a hand or drop that in the chat. We'll probably take one more question if there are any. Uh, I don't think there are any further questions, but before we wrap up, thank you so much, Jay. You have answered so many questions. I literally felt like I was in a therapy session with you because you were so calm. You are the calm to my,
Ah,
super
we are
hyper
I can hear that
thing.
voice. Very
So
nice.
I actually feeling with, I mean, talking with you made me feel grounded. So thank you for that. You didn't just teach us the skills, you reminded us why this work matters and how to put more heart into it. And thank you also to the audience for showing up for your own growth, for your clients' growth and their progress, and to join this beautiful community of mental health professionals and learn from each other. Your
Nice.
questions
They're
were
too kind in the
amazing.
chat section. Wow.
I'm sorry.
I'm saying they're too kind in the chat section. Wow. Thank
I
you.
know they are. They are.
Thank
Because
you.
it was a good session. It was a good session, Jay. Thank you so much. And if you love this session, don't forget to check out Jay's special, course that he does, where he teaches you much more closely about how to develop these micro skills. I probably am going to try and get into that course as well so that I understand myself better as a therapist. So feel free to do that. And also, if you like this session, please, sign up to our Zensible WhatsApp group. We will post first about all upcoming session over there. I'm just going to drop a link here for you
Hey,
to.
Shulekha, we can get connected on LinkedIn and we can talk about it over there. Is that okay? I think she asked for the details
Course
of it.
details. Yeah, I saw that. You can drop your LinkedIn. Oh, you know what? I will send out an email to all of you who registered with with Jay's LinkedIn, and you can connect with
That
Jay
can be
over there.
us.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. So until next time, keep holding space for your clients and for yourself. Take care, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you. Bye bye. Thanks, Jay.